Hello, travelers, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the Indie Diarist podcast, showing the human stories behind indie game development. Speaking to you today, as usual, is your loyal Indie Diarist and host, Anthony L. Wolf, writer and narrative designer and senior content manager in social media. And today, I've got a very lovely guest from Denmark, Tanja Lind Tankred, who's the co-founder of Other Tales Interactive. But as usual, before we go into the episode, I want to shout out to my amazing Patreons who keep supporting me every single month. And they're Feynoko, Zagini, Fishbump Dev, and Pelik. Thank you guys so much. You're amazing. And it's incredible to have your support, ongoing support every single month. Really, I don't know where I'd be without you. And if you too want to support the show in any way, you can go to patreon.com/theindiediarist, and you'll be able to gain access to episodes in advance, bonus content, and a lot more. You can also go to theindiediarist.com, where you can find all the links to this, plus more ways to join the community, including the Discord server and my links to social media. Without further ado, let's go into Indie Diary number 37 with Tanja Lind Tankred, and I hope I'm saying her name right. All right, everybody. Hello, and welcome to a new episode of the Indie Diarist podcast, showing the human stories behind indie game development. This is your loyal Indie Diarist and host, but you know everything about me from the intro. I'm a writer, narrative designer, and senior content manager in social media. And today with me is another amazing guest from the indie game development community. Her name is Tanja. So, Tanja, you're, as far as I know, and if I remember correctly, you're the co-founder of Other Tales Interactive. So tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, what you do, where you're based, and what you're working on right now.
I'm one of the co-founders of Other Tales Interactive, and I am on a new project that we're working on right now called Miniatures, and there I'm a writer and also design the project together with the others. And yeah, I think that's me. We have been going at it for, since 2016, and we made one game before. It's called TikTok, A Tale for Two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And looking at your page and your website, I could see your focus on, narrative experiences and like beautiful stories and such, and miniatures. It just looks stunning already. So that I'm very curious about. I will get into it. Before we get into all the development questions and all the personal questions about your own story, I always like to open these episodes with a little icebreaker. And in this case, I wanted to ask you, if you could be any game's character for one day, who would you be and why?
That's interesting. Can I be like the character in Journey? I don't know what it's called.
Oh, yes, the character in Journey, of course.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Just sliding the slopes and exploring the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would not be a bad day.
Well, no one ever said that before, but yeah, it would be a very, very soothing experience, I guess.
Yeah.
Also, if I remember right, you cannot die in Journey, so that's pretty good by itself. You can definitely be slowed down. I seem to remember you can't die. So yeah, it would be just a day where you just relax, sliding around the sand and exploring the world. That's
exploring the wonders, what's there. Maybe I'll also meet someone else, right? Like they have this 2-player version of it, so I can hang out with someone else and we can whistle and
I didn't know about that feature before I started playing it, and I played it like later on. So I was playing it when years after the game came out. And I didn't know about the feature that you could actually meet someone else in the game. And towards the end, I found someone. Towards the end, when you're near the mountain, like literally at the end, and I found someone. I was like, "Wait, is this AI? Is this another player?" But I saw that they were responding to my calls, and then we just ended up doing a little bit of the road together. And then we kind of got split, but it was magical. And then I was like, "Oh my god, this is one of the most beautiful moments in my gaming life." But yeah, let's not talk too much about Journey. But it was beautiful. It was beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah, I had someone that went with me from the very beginning. And if you've played Journey a lot of times, you get a white cape. And this person had a white cape. So it was basically taking me around the entire game, showing me all the secrets. It was very beautiful.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, no, I didn't mean a white cape, but yeah, that would have been very cool. Right, yeah, didn't know about the white cape either. I should probably read up on Journey's secrets too. Such a beautiful game. Yeah. But yeah, so So, of course, this is a show on the human stories behind indie game development, as I always say. And with these stories and with my guests, I always like to start from the beginning. So what I'd like to ask you is, think back to your childhood. What's your earliest or fondest memory that involves video games?
Yeah, I think I'm very classic in that sense. I had a Nintendo 64 and I played so much Mario, and I think that's probably what takes up the most space of my childhood with games. Yeah, I don't have anything because I didn't know a lot of people that were playing games actually. Like my cousin, he was playing a bit, so whenever I was like at his place, I would kind of try what he was playing, but I did not have a lot of people that would recommend me stuff. So I played a lot of the classics when I was younger. And yeah, I think I also had a really fun memories of The Lion King, but it's so hard.
So
like
hard,
I never made it very far. And I think
yeah.
in this fall we were in London for the WASD, and they had The Lion King. Someone had put up The Lion King, and I had to try it, and it was so fun and still really, really hard.
It's still really, really difficult. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, no, and one of my earliest gaming memories is playing, like, I don't know, Spyro or Crash Team Racing with my dad. He's not the one who introduced me to video games, was my uncle. But still, he encouraged me, and then kind of regretted it afterwards because I was just playing a lot of video games. But yeah. So you were at WASD. That's interesting because I'm going in April. So if you guys are planning to go again, then I could just meet the team there.
That's cool. Yeah, we're not planning to yet, but I will definitely let you know if we're there. Yeah.
That's perfect. Yeah, that would be nice. And yeah, for anyone listening, if you're at WASD this April, it will be in a couple months' time by the time you listen to this episode. You'll find me on the show floor, but I'll say it again closer to the date. Well, you kind of answered this question already, which is which games do you remember playing growing up? And of course, well, The Lion King, yes, but also all the classics from Nintendo 64. But do you think they're having an influence on the kind of work that you're doing right now?
I guess the stuff that we do now, it doesn't have so many of, like the classical like challenges, or you have to collect certain things, but I think there's just something about the playfulness that that sticks, and in enjoying being in other worlds. And I think maybe from Mario, there's a lot of the exploration. I could also see that when I got back into games, like I had a bit of a break in my life, and it was especially the exploration and like going around in worlds and finding things that I found really, really interesting. I think it's also why Journey is something that pops up, because it also has that thing of going into this new world and just exploring and being there. And
Yeah, well, again, I can definitely see it in the art style, but also I suppose in the gameplay once I can get my hands on miniatures, which I will. I'm really looking forward to that one from the little things that I've seen. But yeah, you mentioned you took a break from games at one point, but when did you even start? Like, when did you realize you wanted to make games? There's always that moment when you do the jump from playing them to making them, but for you, was there some sort of a aha moment, an epiphany, if you may?
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit by accident, actually. I was studying literature, like comparative literature, and I have a bachelor in that. And then I was kind of thinking, can I do like some interactive ebooks or something like that? And then I took a course at the IT university. And then I got introduced to so many games while I was there, and a lot of these indies that were really like pushing the boundaries of what a game can be. And I can just remember I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then we started making games in class, and I just found the process of making games really, really fun, where you sit and there's like nothing, and someone says something and you're like, like what about that? We can put this thing on da. And that process was like nothing, and then suddenly there's something and you build it. It was
you see it come together over time.
It's just really magical, I think. And while like yeah, literature and that world is a bit more solitary, you sit a bit more on your own and read. And I think I really enjoyed the collaborativeness of making games. And of course, you can
Mhm.
also make games on your own, but I really enjoy that it's like multiple people that come together to create a thing.
Yeah, I'd say that
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense, and also it kind of anticipates one of the questions that I'm going to ask later, but I'll get to it. It's just making games is so magical. Just seeing them come together, the combination of all those different arts, is just
Yeah.
something unique to the craft. I think it's just really incredible. And like when it comes to your development history, or at least your involvement in development and in indie development, is there a
Mhm.
particular challenge from your years at Other Tales or even before then that left a mark on you, something that you want to share for other developers?
Like left a mark, like in a
Uh-huh.
like in a bad way or a
In a
good
bad
way,
way,
or
also in a good way, maybe you learned something positive, who knows.
I think like the cliche one is that everything takes longer than you
Mm,
kind of think that it will. And then I think for me, what has been really giving was especially doing TikTok that I learned to draw, and I was like me and Mira were pretty new at making games, and we both came from this writer wanting to make something narrative
mhm,
together, and Mira, she learned how to program and I learned how to draw. And I think that whole process was so giving and so fun,
mhm.
and challenging as well. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's more on a
yeah.
personal note. Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, I guess a lot of people will relate with that one. We tend to be very optimistic with our estimates in terms of time and
Yeah,
such, but
definitely. And
yeah, it's
still, like, even
yeah,
we keep saying it, like, we have to remember that it
yeah.
takes
It
longer,
will
and
take longer. It will
and
take
it
longer.
and it, then it takes longer than that too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and at this point, I guess I'm curious about the story behind Other Tales Interactive. Like, how did it come to be?
Yeah, I think like the very, very start of it was that we were in school, Mira and I, and yeah, we were both like these narrative interested people. And when it was gotten time to write our thesis, I asked Mira if she wanted to do something together
Mm-hmm.
because I knew she also kind of wanted to make a game. And we had not worked together like on these like big assignments before, so we were a bit nervous actually of like working together.
Mm-hmm.
But then we did it, and that was how like the foundation kind of TikTok emerged. Like we wanted to make a narrative game for
Mm-hmm.
two, and we were super fascinated of when you're a kid and you have like your parent read out loud to you, and
Mm-hmm.
that kind of feel of like sharing and story and being super close. We wanted to have that in a game format, and that was how it went. And then after university, we're like, oh, maybe we can release this game and we can
Nice.
we can make a company.
That's beautiful. Yeah, it sounds like well, and it sounds like you had a pretty unique focus from the start. Like you wanted to do not unique, but at least a very very clear focus from the start. You wanted to do narrative games and you wanted to do them beautifully and such. And I guess that brings me to my next question. So, like you do clearly have a focus on beautiful narrative, immersive, story driven adventures. As a writer, I can really relate with that. But where do
Yeah,
you think that comes from? Like, is there something that just makes you enjoy stories that much?
yeah. I think like stories have always been something that I've enjoyed since I was little. I always read a lot and read a lot of fantasy when I was younger and went to study literature and was always interested in writing. And I have like lots of like, I always started novels, like I would start them, I would
Uh,
write a few chapters, and then I would get excited about something else, and then I'll start a
yeah,
new thing. And
classical. Yeah.
yeah, and Mira is the same. Like she also, yeah, has this writing and love for reading and has had it since she was very young.
Hmm.
So I think it's kind of natural that we wanted to go in that direction.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. Well, that makes a lot of sense, and I can relate with everything you said. Like, just there's something magical about stories. Myself, I've been reading since I have memory.
yeah.
Probably side by side with video games. I would say they're my two biggest passions. And then I managed to make a career out of one of them. So maybe at some point I will make it out of the
Yeah.
other one too. But yeah, so well, I guess we're now after TikTok, of course, but we're now back to the present, I would say.
Mhm.
So you're working on miniatures. Just what's so exciting about it, and what can you tell the listeners at this stage?
Yeah, well, what can I tell? So it's game anthology. So
Hmm.
it's four small stories that you can play separately or all in one go, and they're all different. So they have different story, they have different art style, different soundscapes, but they're all connected by being set in childhood, and it's seen from a child's perspective.
Hmm.
And then we tend to like the slightly mysterious and a little bit eerie. So that's also something you see in all of the stories.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think that's the overall like explanation of what it is on a like more formal level. And yeah, they have been incredibly fun to make. They have been made by writing short stories, and then we go together as a team, and then we kind of see, okay, what art style, like what gameplay, what fits with this specific story.
Hmm.
And then we started developing.
And I guess the name miniatures comes from that, like the fact that there are just very small miniatures, I suppose,
Yeah,
or very small
definitely.
stories. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's
Yeah,
perfect.
and it
Um,
and it's lovely as well that it's miniatures. They also has like this art meaning as well, like from artists that
yeah.
did these paintings just in miniatures, because it is also this very like analog, or we're trying to make the game feel very analog at the same time, and we're trying to mimic more traditional painting styles, and so we're
Mm.
just like, oh, it's both small stories and it's also has this art reference, which we thought were very cool.
Yeah, and I believe you already have some assets out because I remember seeing them. I don't know if David shared them with me,
Mm,
but maybe I've seen them online. But I believe you already have some assets out potentially, and if you do, well, I recommend everyone to just go and check out miniatures because already from the art style it looks beautiful. And at what stage are you in development, if you can share? Like, when do you think you have a release date in mind and such?
yeah, so we're kind of figuring out the release date
Mm-hmm.
now. So I can't say so much about the exact thing. I know it will be in 2024 that we
Perfect.
will
Okay.
release. Um, Yeah, and we have finished the first two stories. We are very close of finishing the third, like we're just like polishing it off. And then we also have like a huge chunk of the fourth story done, but it's a bit more
Mm-hmm.
like
Okay.
in
But yeah,
early.
2024 still sounds great. And yeah,
Yeah.
I'm very much looking forward to that. Well, I guess after all of these questions, we get to the core of
Mhm.
what the show is about, which is me asking you, why exactly are you a game developer? What do you think drives you forward?
Oh, I think it's a wonderful medium to make stories in. I think you can really make something new, and I think I'm just very drawn to things that are like, oh, can we do this, or what about that, or yeah, really like getting your create like allow your creativity to just like run.
Hmm.
um and as I also mentioned before, like the collaborativeness of it, like working together with a team, that is also just fun to
Hmm.
work with. I think it becomes a little family somehow, even though it's of course still like
Hmm.
professional, but like seeing the same people and yeah, working closely on building something together. I think that's special.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and
I'm
then
sure a lot of people can relate with that one. Of course, a lot of people I know listen to this podcast as solo developers, but they will still find themselves in your words. Like, even just speaking to the community or just connecting with other developers, it feels
mm,
like just a big family when you're part of the indie game dev community, which is really amazing to me.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and and if I may ask, what's the opposite? Like, what drives you backwards? Like, what's your biggest struggle as an indie developer? If you have any. I mean, it could be that you're just.
No, there's like of course there's tons of those as well. I'm just thinking like what is the best one to choose. Mm, I think also sometimes, even though games are really fascinating to make stories with, they are also really hard at the
Mm,
same time, because getting like that specific mood across, or that specific thing that needs to happen in a game, is
mm-hmm.
really hard, because you also want to give players agency, so you don't want to force them to do
Yeah.
something. but this also has to happen. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that like finding the perfect format for that, I think is really, really hard. And I think in miniatures, for example, it's more like you're interacting with a short film. Like, so there's not that many choices you can take. So here it's more of like experiencing a story and going
Mm-hmm.
through it and being there. Um, but it is quite often like a thing that we're sitting and working with, like, oh, what we want the player to be able to choose, but we know that the story is better if it goes this way. So
Yeah,
it's that is
I
definitely a
see.
challenge. And then we also sometimes, it's also with storytelling, but like how subtle do we want to
Mm-hmm.
be? Because we really try to not be in your face.
Yeah,
And,
not too
and
much exposition, of course. Yeah.
exactly, we don't want to tell you exactly what's going on, but we also don't want players to be lost after playing. You need to be able
Mm-hmm.
to have had an experience and have
Hold their
had
hand a
something
little bit. Mm-hmm.
that made sense. So those are the two main challenges, I would
Mm-hmm.
say, in storytelling.
Yeah, and they make sense. I suppose it's the biggest challenge of game development in general. The fact that you're developing something that someone else will then play. It's not like, well, they always say when your work of art or your creation is done, then it's in the hands of the audience and whoever experiences it. So that it's true of films as well. But with films, it's a bit different because they're a passive medium. But in terms of games, you're always kind of having to deal with the fact that the player is probably going to do something that you never expected they would do. So you need a little bit of hand holding there, definitely. But yeah, I see exactly what you mean. And so, well, based on your experience in the industry so far, what would
Mhm.
you say is one thing that you would change about the video games industry?
I mean, I think there's a lot that could be improved on, like with like gender and
Yeah.
diversity and like
Mm-hmm.
all those things that we have been talking a lot about in the industry as well. Um, and I think maybe I'm gonna take like a more. I wish maybe it was sometimes easier to make non-commercial products,
Mm-hmm. Okay, I see. So,
and
like
yeah, and then
the
more.
creativity were valued more, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, or like it's always valued, I think it's
Mm-hmm.
just and I think we have some really great festivals and conferences that celebrates that
Mm-hmm.
creativity. Um, but I think, for example, in Denmark, we're really lucky to have good funding schemes, but I know that in a lot of places in the world it's not as lucky, and then it's really hard to make these um, experimental,
Mm-hmm.
non-profitable games.
Mm-hmm.
So if we could solve that, how we can make more of those games, that would be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, it's true. The UK isn't too bad, and I'm based in the UK now, but I'm Italian and I come from Italy, and I know that that is a problem in itself. Like developing games in Italy, a lot of people I've heard from and that I've spoken to in the past, even just as a game journalist, it's just a mess. There's
Mm,
absolutely no funny, and it's very difficult to get any sort of help to make your dream game, and sometimes your dream
yeah,
game isn't necessarily
exactly.
commercial. So as you
Yeah, I
say,
mean, yeah.
yeah, yeah, I know exactly what you say and what you mean, and yeah, when I was at EGX, also the issue of gender diversity came up because I wasn't at EGX here in London late last year, and a lot of panels were about gender diversity, but also just more inclusion in general, LGBTQIA plus community and such,
Mm,
and it shows that there's so much to do in a lot of ways
mm,
still. But yeah, at least awareness is growing and it's changing, which is positive. Um, yeah, well, I guess then this kind of brings us closer to the end. I've got just a couple more questions for you, but this
mm,
one might be useful to other people. Of course, you work closely with your co-founders and with your
mm,
team and such. But do you ever
mm.
feel lonely or discouraged as an indie game developer? And if you do, how do you cope with that?
I think I my struggles as a like a developer has not been as much as being lonely because I've always been working with a
Hmm.
team. But I think there's definitely some times when I have struggled with like what I'm making is not good enough.
Hmm.
Um, and I can be very frustrated and like sit.
Imposter syndrome, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I can
Hmm.
get like really frustrated with myself and have like where I just need to leave my desk and like go
Hmm.
and like just take a breather because yeah, I want it in a specific way.
Hmm.
And I think the way to overcome that for me has always been to talk with other people. And I think I'm
Hmm.
extremely lucky to also be with a very supportive team. And especially my co-founder he has a very positive energy and is always very good at saying, no, this is good. Let's get it out.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that can help if you're surrounded by supportive people and such, and if you don't have a team as a solo developer, also turning to the community and other people who may have more experience, just for an idea, just for an exchange of ideas, that would also be super
Yeah,
helpful.
exactly. And
Yeah.
keep trying. I think that's also where I'm like
Hmm.
I'm really learning that nothing has to be perfect at the first shot. Like, and you can even like just if you're sitting and drawing something and you're like it doesn't turn out the way, and you draw it like one, two, three, four, like 10 times, it does get better. It's just
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think yeah, that's always nice. Nice to remember that
Exactly. Yeah. Keep trying because it will get
keep
better. Yeah. The
trying. Yeah, exactly.
first draft is always something that you just want to throw away and start over. But from the
Yeah,
second time,
exactly. And
it improves always.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wish first drafts were a thing that it just came out
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
That would
Exactly.
suit my temper very well.
Yeah.
But
That would
yeah,
help a lot. I could totally
yeah.
relate. Yeah. Well, then I guess I just have two more questions, which hopefully will be a bit fun for you. Just to wrap things up, and one of them is: imagine writing a letter to yourself, but the self that was in university. What would you
Hmm.
say before even taking the gaming class?
Do not crunch. And yeah, there is yeah. What else would I say? Because it's also I don't know if I would have been able to do it any differently, like than what we actually did. Um,
Well, that's, I guess, a message in itself. Like, just keep going. It's gonna be fine. Whatever you're
yeah,
going to
yeah,
do is gonna
maybe.
turn out well. Yeah.
But that's also like a dangerous, like kind of letter to write to yourself.
Yeah, that's true.
Um, no, yeah, but if I could actually just write like, no, yeah, everything will be fine. That would be nice to know, like a letter
Hmm.
from the future that
Yeah, very reassuring,
will,
definitely. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It would be
Hmm.
a nice, reassuring message because I think that is the hardest thing about also, especially making your first game. Like you never know how it's gonna go. And even with like now it's the second game, like we still don't know.
Still don't know.
So
Yeah, of course.
it would be really nice to know
Yeah,
how
absolutely.
things are going to work out. I think that's yeah, it's some of the hardest things about being a developer. Like there's always this unknown thing. Like you
Hmm.
always have to where can you find your funding and yeah, will people actually respond to what you're making? And yeah.
Hmm. Well, yeah, that sounds like a perfect letter to send to to your
Yeah.
former self in a way. So
It'll be all right.
don't be afraid
Uh,
of the unknown. It will be all right. Yeah, perfect. Um, and lastly, I guess there's this might be a fun question for you to answer because I mean everything that we talked about, especially with a couple questions ago, it makes me think that you may have an interesting answer here. If you had unlimited budget and time, what
mm,
game would you make?
I would make a big, like, explorative game, like a
Hmm.
huge world to explore.
Oh, like Journey then.
Um,
Yeah, okay. So back
yeah,
to the beginning.
yeah, not necessarily journey, but I think I would. It doesn't have to be much bigger than something like Firewatch or something like that. Maybe
Right.
that kind of scale game, but with a
Mm-hmm.
big open world, maybe also a mystery or something to solve,
Mm-hmm.
and where you can explore a lot. And if I had unlimited budget, it would be really cool with a world where you can talk with everyone and everyone will reply in a natural
Mm-hmm.
way and like that like kind of impossible project.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, still experiences and stories, they keep coming up. So yeah, as I thought, this was a very interesting answer. Well, Tanja, what can I say? We're around, well, almost perfectly the 30-minute mark, which is, yeah, incredible. So I guess it's time for some parting words. First of all, thank you so much for your time and for wanting to just come onto the show. It's been a lovely chat. Where can other people find you? And if they do, what is the best way to support you?
You can find us on social media. We're on Twitter most of the time, and then also on Discord. That's probably where it's the easiest to come and talk with us. And it's just Other Tales for both of them. Yeah. And thank you so much for having me as well. Like, it's been really nice having a chat.
Yeah. And of course, I'll put all of these links in the description of the episode so people can come and check out Other Tales. But yes, what can I say if not thank you again? It has been a lovely chat and it has been a pleasure. And wishing you all the best. I can't wait for miniatures.
Thank you so much.
And that's a wrap, folks, on another beautiful episode of the Indie Diaries podcast. And not beautiful because of me, but because of the amazing guests that I bring on the show. Thank you so much, Tanja, for helping me for this Indie Diary number 37. It's been beautiful speaking to you, and your energy just, your love for stories truly shines through your words. It was great to have such a cheerful and talented developer on the show, and I can't wait for miniatures. And interestingly, I'm featuring so many writers in the first part of the year. Maybe I'm becoming a writer magnet or something. Well, being a writer myself, I wouldn't be surprised. But in any case, thank you, whoever's at home or just commuting or listening to this one on the go. Thank you for listening to this episode of the show. If you liked it, please leave a rating, subscribe, say hi on social media, anything you'd like to do. You can find all my links on theindiediarist.com. And just as a reminder, the YouTube channel is live now, and there I usually publish some video clips and shorts from these episodes. So yeah, make sure to check that one out, because I have some interesting things in mind for the future of that channel. And of course, if you subscribe to Patreon, for example, you'll be able to gain access to uncut video episodes straight on the YouTube channel in a very exclusive way. But other than that, if you are an indie game developer yourself, please get in touch, because I would love to hear from you and tell your story to my amazing listeners scattered all around the world who are always hungry for incredible human stories from the indie game development community. I'll speak to you next time.